Members, it's already the appointed time and we've formed a quorum. Please invite the administration to join us. Item 1 on the agenda, confirmation of minutes of our meeting dated the 28th of October 2014, paper CB 3155/1415 was sent to members on the 14th of November. Can members confirm the minutes, please? Thank you. While we are waiting the deputations and representative to settle down, we are supposed to have 10 deputations, but 1 or 2 have yet to arrive. Number 1 and number 5 have yet to arrive. While they are getting seated, let's gain some time by starting the introduction. Present for this meeting with Mr. Christopher Wong, Deputy Secretary for Food and Health, Ms. Hinny Lam, PAS for Food and Health, Dr. Thomas Sit, Assistant Director from the AFCD, and from DOJ, Mr. Alan Lai, and Dr. Michelle Yeung, Senior Veterinary Officer from AFCD, Ms. Jean Zhang, Assistant Secretary for Food and Health. We've also received written submissions, 156 of them, from deputations who are not attending this meeting. And all the submissions have been forwarded to members and the administration. A warm welcome to deputations and individuals who are present. I will invite deputations to speak according to the speaking order I have. Each will have up to 3 minutes so that we can have time left for members to ask questions. The timer will be when 3 minutes are up, and by then you know that your time is up. If you don't have enough time to finish expressing your views, you can give us a written submission to the Secretariat later, and those submissions will also be forwarded to members. For those who need to use the earpiece, channel 0 is the floor, channel 1 Cantonese, channel 2 English, channel 3 Putonghua. And when you speak, please speak into the mic for the sake of the interpreters. So please speak into the mic as I do now. And to facilitate interpretation, please stick to one language when you speak, either Cantonese or English, and please do not use cocktail language. And may I remind members that your remarks here are not protected by the Electoral Powers and Privileges Ordinance, Cap 382. You do not enjoy the immunities and exemptions under the ordinance, and the same apply to your written submissions. And may I remind all deputations and individuals to note the security notes for those who are attending this meeting in the meeting room and in the public gallery. The notes have been included in the invitation letters sent by the Secretary to you, and is also tabled if need be. You can also ask for a copy from the security staff present. 2 deputations have yet to arrive, so may I invite the second deputation, the Liberal Party's Pet Rights Concern Unit, Mr. Anson Lam, to speak first. Thank you. The VSB was enacted in 1997, and then the industry has been developing very well, and so has the number of complaints. The current mode of operation of the bill is not able to cope with the increasing workload. As a result, there is a backlog of complaints. From receipt of complaints to completion of a case, it could take as long as 16 months. The protracted processing time is a nuisance and torture to both the complainee as well as the stakeholders concerned. So we agree that the board should be expanded, but we should take note of the representativeness. Under the bill, there will only be 6 non-vet members. This is not sufficient. Veterinary services can involve other professional knowledge, such as dental and pharmaceutical knowledge. So we believe that relevant members from these sectors should be increased from 2 to 3, including practicing doctors and dentists and pharmacists in Hong Kong, 1 respectively. And from non-profit making organizations, animal loving groups, and also lay members using vet services should have 6 representatives in the board. The LP is of the view that this will allow the board to exercise its professional judgment with input from other experts and stakeholders so as to protect the rightful interests of users. This will enhance the credibility and also acceptability of the profession. And the administration may consider increasing, there should be an addition of 9 members in the board. Regarding the composition of the board, the elected members should be nominated by the profession. In overseas jurisdictions, there may be a high proportion of appointed members than elected members, but taking into account political development in Hong Kong, the appointment system is declining. With too many appointed members, the public will certainly doubt the neutrality of some of the stakeholders, and the government will be open to unnecessary challenges. We believe that all the vet members on the board should be returned by elections within the profession so that more vets can be involved in the management. Your time is up. Next, Dr. Florence Chen from the Hong Kong Veterinary Association.
Veterinary Association believes veterinary medicine is being practiced at a very high level in Hong Kong, and it is in the profession's best interest to continue this. We acknowledge and fully support the Veterinary Surgeons Board disciplinary role in maintaining this standard. However, we believe that this disciplinary function should be carried out in a just and fair manner to both the veterinarian and the public. There has been a feeling amongst the profession that members being complained against are considered by the board to be guilty until proven innocent. We are also concerned with the unexplained delays in registration of veterinarians. The HKVA supports the bill's proposal to increase the number of board members and the formation of more preliminary investigation committees. There is a need to improve the efficiency in handling the increasing number of complaint cases which have resulted from the rapid growth of the profession over recent years. It is hoped that these changes will result in faster handling of disciplinary cases, and furthermore, among the additional members, there will be 6 practicing veterinarians chosen by election by the profession, which will increase the transparency and representation of the board. The HKVA supports the proposed composition of 2 veterinarians and 1 layperson of the preliminary investigation committees. 2 veterinarians, when chosen for their field of expertise, would be capable of making sound judgments based on their knowledge of veterinary medicine and understanding of local practicing conditions. The layperson will provide the transparency and accountability demanded by the public and will represent the public's perspective. If the PICs are dominated by layperson, it is feared that such committees will lack adequate professional knowledge, will take a longer time in handling complex cases, and might make incorrect decisions which adversely affect the standard of veterinary practice in Hong Kong, and most importantly, negatively impacting on the welfare of our animals. We believe that the current 2-to-1 ratio of vets to non-vets in the PIC and VSB is already more than adequate for the general public to be represented in the jurisdiction. Overseas jurisdictions have a higher ratio of vets to non-vets. We believe that the profession, together with the Veterinary Surgeons Board, should be working towards the ultimate goal of self-regulation. We wish to see a licensing system for veterinary establishments. Under the current ordinance, non-vet owners of veterinary clinics are not answerable to the VSB for the practices occurring in their clinics. The HKVA is putting effort into introducing a voluntary clinic accreditation scheme as means to partially address this problem. We would like to see the establishment of a charities commissioner due to concerns that business entities might abuse charity laws against negatively impacting on the welfare of our animals. Thank you.
下一位係Dr. Paul.
Next, Dr. Paul Essie from One Chai Animal Clinic.
Good morning. I commend the Legislative Council on their willingness to receive submissions to improve the manner in which the veterinary profession is managed in Hong Kong. It is my submission that at most 1 lay person on the board is sufficient to ensure that the interests of animal owners are protected and transparency in decision making occurs. An uninformed lay person would have no idea of what the veterinary profession entails, would be a hindrance in board discussions, as the veterinary members would need to spend an inordinate amount of time to explain to the layperson what a reasonable veterinarian would do in each and every circumstance. Laypersons on the board can only take advice given by those of the medical profession. They are not in a position to judge or even question advice given by those within the profession about our profession. They can only use common sense to see the fairness in such advice or ask for a second opinion. They are not professionals. They are lay people. The proposed legislation, without further changes, still falls woefully short of the required number of veterinarians when compared to the Hong Kong Medical or Dental Council. This, in our opinion, is unacceptable. The ratio of medical professionals to lay people on the Medical Council is 6-to-1. On the Dental Council, the ratio of professionals to lay people is 11-to-1. Now you are proposing that we make this 2-to-1 on the Veterinary Surgeons Registrations Board. It is woefully short and unacceptable, in my opinion. In all spheres of life, there has come to be abuse of the charity ordinance. This is glaringly obvious when we look at the so-called private hospitals in Hong Kong. The same is happening in the veterinary sector. There are supposedly not-for-profit groups that have none of the entry requirements stipulated by so many well-respected charities abroad. Charitable groups in Hong Kong have no means test and no way of determining whether or not a client is truly indigent. Indeed, it is my opinion that they use their charitable status merely as a tax shield, and the board should be requiring them to open their books to the public and have a means test instituted. Until such a time that this happens, they are merely cynically taking advantage of a poorly regulated system, and the end result is an unfair competitive advantage over private veterinarians. Furthermore, there is profligate abuse of the advertising rules of the Code of Conduct. By advertising as a not-for-profit clinic, the insinuation in the mind of the public is one of cheaper services. This practice needs to stop. Welfare groups must be compelled to be audited, and their source of funding and expenditure of that funding brought out into the open so as not meant to mislead the public. Increasing the number of lay people on the board could be construed as a cynical attempt to shield these non-profit groups from the scrutiny that they so truly deserve. Thank you.
下一位呢係Dr. Jane Gray，香港愛護動物協會。
Dr. Jane Gray from the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals.
Supports the proposals to amend the Veterinary Surgeons Registration Ordinance. The profession in Hong Kong has undergone major changes since the formation of the board in 1997. There are currently over 600 practicing vets. This, together with advancements in the science and higher expectations of pet owners, has obviously resulted in an increase in complaints. Unfortunately, the structure of the board has not kept up with these developments, and protracted delays in complaint handling has caused dissatisfaction on both sides. Long waits for complaint closure, from 2 to 5 years, are incredibly stressful for the vets involved. This situation is also not acceptable to complainants who expect the board to act in an expedient and professional manner. It's obvious the number of preliminary investigation and inquiry committees are woefully insufficient to deal with a high demand. In addition, the formation of the board with only appointed members had resulted in a lack of transparency and respect. Including members directly elected by the profession in a fair and open manner would increase trust and improve the relationship between the board and local vets. The ratio of vets to non-vets at 2 to 1 is well within the remits of comparative jurisdictions such as Australia, 2 to 1, and the United Kingdom, 4 to 1. In no jurisdiction is the ratio 1 to 1. Reviewing boards worldwide, non-vets are present to ensure transparency and that public needs are met. Veterinary issues pertaining to the way the profession is run, such as ethics and acceptable standards of treatment, can only be judged by those with suitable training and knowledge. Vets undergo at least 5 years of university training and are sworn by oath on qualifying to uphold their profession and act in the best interests of animal welfare. They are best placed to regulate their profession with oversight from non-veterinary members. Finally, while supporting the proposals in principle, the SPCA would like to make the following recommendations. With regard to the PICs, a further refinement is to ensure one of the 2 vets present is from clinical practice. The majority of complaints are those involving clinical practice, and as such it is vital at least one member has an in-depth knowledge in the field in which the complaint is being judged. The chairman should be directly elected by other board members. To consider an increased proportion of elected to appointed vets, as with other professions. In the meantime, a more transparent selection process would increase the general public's and the veterinary profession's confidence in the appointed members of the board. Performance pledges regarding timeframes for complaint handling and vet registration. Likewise, with regards to vets providing information on complaints, these should also be done in a timely manner. For complaints presented in Chinese, the board should be responsible for translation of the documents to English and vice versa, so the complaint can be reviewed and processed consistently by all concerned. And finally, consideration to a licensing system of veterinary clinics to control standards and increase public confidence in the board and the veterinary profession. In conclusion, we applaud the government's efforts to improve the current legislation and hope further refinements to the proposed amendments will be considered either now or in the future. Thank you.
下一位呢係中國香港獸醫學會會長蕭家和獸醫。
咁喺總括而言呢，咁就本會就贊同條例草案修訂嘅獸醫註冊條例大部分嘅修訂嘅，咁就所贊同嘅要點呢，就第一維持翻獸醫管理局入邊註冊獸醫同非註冊獸醫嘅比例為2:1啦。第二呢，就係初步調查委員會由兩。
And also, the PIC should be made up of 2 vets and 1 non-vet. And third, the new 6 vet members should be elected among the profession. And also, we also support the number of VSB board members be increased from 10 to 19. And among the 19, 6 of them are appointed and 6 of them are elected. The VSB is relatively young. It was established in 1997. And I think we can take reference from overseas jurisdictions outlined in Annex 1 of the relevant ordinance. For the Royal
College of Veterinary Surgeons, they have 42 members, and the ratio of vet to non-vet members is 35:7. If we were to expand the number of our board to 19, I think we should take reference from South Africa. They have a member totaling 19, and then 13:6 is their ratio. And also Ontario, they've got 18 members, and the ratio is 13:5 in terms of vet to non-vet. Now, in my submission, I have listed all these figures. And in most of the jurisdictions, they have a ratio of higher than 2:1 because the veterinary profession is a very specialized profession, and some of them are expert in big animals, others are small animals. And if they are to give expert opinions on complaints and deal with the complaints fairly, and the vet, well, there should be more vet on the board, well, at least 2:1. As for non-vet members, if we take reference from the South African Vet Council and other councils in overseas jurisdictions, there is at least one vet nurse. But then in Hong Kong, we don't have legislation on vet nurses, and we have already then got the Hong Kong Veterinary Association registered. I think we can think about trying to identify a member from that association. And also, I think we should also try to appoint members from animal welfare groups. But then, under Hong Kong laws, there is no definition of Hong Kong welfare animal groups. So anyway, I support that member be appointed. Dr. Patrick Chang, veterinary is a very specialized field. We spent 5 years in the vet school to learn about the behavior, physiology of animals. But this is just only the beginning. Now, after that, we must continue to learn and study. I agree that the composition of the VSB must be changed. The number of complaints has been going up, so we need more manpower to deal with complaints and also monitoring the running of the vet clinics. I don't agree with the ratio of 1:1 for vet and non-vet members. Animals are very different from human beings, and the type of medicine administered is also different. So, I mean, this is a very specialized field, which may not be understandable even to the pharmacologists or other physicians. We want to deal with matters more expeditiously, but then if non-vet members increase in number, then things will get more complicated, because we have to spend a lot more time to explain to the non-vet members. But even with that, they may not be able to understand. And what will result is that we will be spending more time to deal with complaints, and also there might even be misjudgment of the cases. So actually, for us, the vets, we are learning every day when we are practicing, and we have to go by our experience to make a judgment. And also, in many cases, we have little resources. Well, very different from humans. For example, human beings don't want us to conduct some tests on them for reasons because of the costs and other reasons. And patients may just want to try out some type of medication, and then there may be delays, and the efficacy is not that good, and then there may be complaints. Now, if non-vet members are to deal with the cases, how do they judge whether the vets have committed a mistake? Well, only those who have worked in a vet clinic can understand how to deal with complaint cases. And actually now I am also involved in analyzing complaint cases. Well, one case may involve more than 100 pages of documents, and the details may be complicated. Well, even for the vets, well, they may have difficulties in judging a case. Well, not to mention the non-vet members. Well, the dealing of the complaint cases take easily over 1 year, and the vets are under a lot of pressure. Those being complained against. I have also been complained against once. Well, I was under a lot of pressure. Sorry, time's up. So I support the increasing of the number to 19. I object to the 1-to-1 ratio.
City University of Hong Kong, Dr. Richard Brown.
Mr. Chairman, we all agreed that in the past, CAT 529 did not serve the needs of the clients, the vets, or the related animal welfare issues. The best guardians of animal welfare are vets. They are the men and women with the education, practical training and experience who are best able to safeguard animal welfare. However, what does one do if one of these guardians of animal welfare is substandard or allows cruelty to occur? This is the age-old problem of who guards the guardians. Solving that problem is the purpose of this piece of legislation. When a situation occurs where doubts have been raised about a vet's ability to perform professionally and so safeguard animal welfare, then the resolution of this situation must have three elements. The solution must be timely, it must be fair, and it must be well informed. We believe our written submission covers these three elements. Timeliness is important. If the process is slow, then the animal owner is stressed, and while the case is pending, we may also impair the performance of one of the guardians of animal welfare, the vet. Therefore, this period must be made as short as possible. Secondly, it must be fair. That is obvious. That is why there is a PIC and IC. However, what is truly fair may not at first sight appear fair. The reason for this is that we are not well informed about the true reality. That is why I come to the third point. The solution must be well informed. We are all informed today. There is a plethora of information available on the internet. A significant fraction of this information is inaccurate and ill-informed. It is tragic if a solution which appears outwardly correct is in fact wrong because it is made by people who are not well informed. Therefore, very briefly, Mr. Chairman, I will run through a précis of most of our recommendations under these three headings: timeliness, fairness and well informed. On timeliness, we recommend more PICs to be formed from board members, that the IC must increase the frequency of its quorum meetings, and this should be linked to a performance pledge. In addition, a review of all previous performance pledges and the creation of new ones for the whole process. On fairness, the membership of the VSB should be expanded and the ratio of non-vets to vets be lowered to match the Medical Council. This will increase the number of PCs and ICs conducted per year and make them more effective. On well-informed, interested veterinary surgeons who meet relevant criteria should be asked to support the work of the VSB by acting in an advisory role as part of the PIC committee process. A veterinary PIC member appointed under Section 3(2) should have sufficient professional experience in the subject area of complaint, e.g. small animal practice. PIC and IC deliberations should be enhanced by access to a retained list of specialist clinics or veterinary schools from whom they can speedily obtain accurate advice. The board should improve its standard of communication and fully explain the cogency of its decisions in various ways. Thank you for your time.
下一位係香港獸醫管理局陳善琪獸醫。
Dr. Olivia Chen from the VSB of Hong Kong. The amendments are therefore reasons. That is because there are an increase in the number of practicing vets, and secondly, the board thinks that the 2-to-1 ratio should be maintained, i.e. 2 vets and 1 non-vet. Well, a vet who has undergone training may have good horizons and parallel or balanced point of view. Now, we've got a board, and then we've got 8 subcommittees, and those include the PIC and the IC. And, well, there should be at least 2 vets and 1 non-vet to give a balanced judgment. Why did I say so? For example, a cat who has contracted diabetes, it may be administered the arsenal, and then the vets have to be taking care of that. Now, for a dog who has been involved in an accident and has to be treated, then we need a vet to really look at the case properly. And then we've also got other subcommittees, including the Continual Professional Development Committee, and that committee must have vet members. and also Committee of Veterinary Professional Standards. Well, we need vets also on that committee.
It may look simple when you consider whether graduates from a certain vet school should be allowed to practice in Hong Kong to ensure animal health and public health. But you need professional vets to make decisions. Therefore, we should not undermine the professionalism of the VSP. Rather, you should take this opportunity to develop a credible and feasible structure so that you can absorb more capable talents of high caliber into the board. I think this is a good opportunity for you to include outstanding vets into the board to ensure animal welfare. Whenever we have one vet less on the board, you are actually reducing the protection for animals and public health in Hong Kong. Well, I'd like to ask whether the administration has any overall response to these deputations first. Mr. Wong. Thank you. I think we'll try to respond after we have had questions from members. Ms. Ho. Thank you. 5 minutes each, okay? Thank you. Thank you very much for you to be here this morning to give us your views. We have also received views from different sectors of the community. They believe that the number of vet and non-vet members in the PIC should be 2 to 1. And the administration didn't give us a good response as to why there should be 6 appointed members on the board. Why can't all 12 be elected? However, it's strange that some vets agree that a certain number of appointed members should be appointed seats should be kept, because they say that the profession is relatively young, and in the past 7 years there has been a rapid expansion in the profession. And find it strange how come vets have given up their opportunity to elect their own representatives. So my question to deputations is, do you believe that all 12 members, all 12 vet members on the board should be returned by the profession so that there can be self-autonomy? We have a few vets here. Which one do you want to address that question to? I didn't see any hands. Well, it's up to the deputations to reply. If they are neutral, then thank you.
Feasible, and I can't see anyone in the profession complaining to have all of the members of the board returned from the members of the profession in the public. Indeed, that's actually how it's done in the UK, and that's also how it's conducted in the South African Veterinary Council. Of course, it would be preferable for those members to come from the profession. As to why the profession has given up and they have accepted possibly 6 coming from the administration and 6 being appointed by members of the profession, is possibly a matter of experience. We have known the vet board to be reasonably sclerotic in their dealings with the members of the profession, and even this bill has now been sitting in limbo for 18 months. Numerous legal letters that have gone out from the board to members of the profession have actually tended to vilify the vets that have been involved. I know many of us have been subjects of these legal attacks. You would have thought that the legal advisor to the veterinary board was there merely to state a legal case and not to actually write opinions on behalf of the board members. So I think in answer to your question, why has the veterinary profession accepted so quickly and so willingly the proposals that have been set forward? I think it is purely because we have had lengthy discussions about this. This has already taken a very long time to get here. And just in everybody's dealings with the board in the past, this is probably the most timely fashion to achieve this. However, I agree with you 100%. And I think most members of the profession would agree with you as well, that we should actually have all of the members returned from the profession and not from the administration. Thank you.
仲有冇其他？Yes, Dr. Jane Gray.
Dr. Jane Gray.
唔該，開佢個咪。
Please speak on the microphone for Dr. Gray.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I'm a bit ignorant of these things. I'd just like to agree with what Paul said. I don't think it's that we've given up at all. I think we all ultimately, and that's what my comment was, that ultimately there should be more elected members, ideally all. I think we just live in a realistic world, and I feel all of us sitting here want something to happen. We need something to improve soon. The situation has been a long time already, too long with waits and things. It has to improve. So I think it's more about trying to get what we think realistically we can get, as opposed to giving up. I don't think anyone here has given up.
But you're not certainly against having all vets elected?
No, I would prefer that, for sure. I mean, maybe there should be one or two from government sitting on it to oversee the government side, but in general, the vast majority of the vets on the board should be by direct election from the profession. I think that is the way that we must ultimately go.
陳善琪獸醫。
Dr. Olivia Chen, thank you, Ms. Sito, for your question. I think we should go a bit further. We should consider both the credibility and feasibility. In Hong Kong, we have about 700 to 800 or close to 100 vets registered. Well, according to the VSB's registration number, there should be about 400 odd practicing. So if all 600, well, if all vets from the same basket, so to speak, then in terms of PIC and IC hearings, there will be difficulties. I don't say that this is a reason for us not to consider how all 12 members should be returned by elections, but we have to consider the feasibility. How can we consider cases in a more balanced manner? Thank you. Professor Kenneth Chen. Thank you. I welcome all deputations who are present, and thank you for giving us their views. My question is rather specific. I think most of us are concerned as to the ratio, whether it should be 2 to 1 or higher or lower. And we will certainly follow up when we scrutinize the bill. And also like to put some specific questions to the vets who are present. In the bill, it's proposed that 6 vet members should be returned by election. And yet Clause 13 says that the election will be decided by the Secretary for Food and Health, including the date, time and place, matters concerning qualification, and the appointment and the determination and notification of questioning of election results, so on and so forth. I'd like to know whether this is acceptable to vets. And at this moment, can you give us views as to the method of election which will be fairest in your view, or rather you will follow what's written in the bill and allow the government to decide everything for you? Anyone, any vet who would like to take this question?
I would just like to say that I think every vet who is registered and working in Hong Kong and practicing should have a say. It should be the practicing vets. So one vote, one vet, which is what we all want in Hong Kong. And then obviously how it's done. I mean, of course, the government have to be responsible for organising the election per se, but we just need it to be fair and transparent. There should be a period where people can apply for election and have their own manifesto, which is circulated to all the vets. And obviously, on that day of election, then every vet should have a say. So it should just be, to me, a very simple process, but that's how I would see it. There should be no loading of votes or anything. It should purely be one vet, one vote, and it should be those registered and practicing in Hong Kong, because those are the people that are being judged by the board at the time.
Any other comments from vets present regarding the question asked by Dr. Chen?
In the UK and indeed the South African Veterinary Council, it's quite a simple process. You know, a ballot paper goes out at the end of the year. There's a specific list of candidates. You take your pick and you choose. As Dr. Gray has pointed out, of course, how the actual procedure comes to be will have to be implemented by the government. But as far as the implementation of it or how it comes about, I think that would be relatively means of just one man, one vote and a paper ballot. You know, the veterinary board can assist in sending those ballots out. You have a registration number. All of us have a practicing certificate number. And that practicing certificate number could be used to identify the veterinarian and then who they choose then to represent the board. I think if you had to ask, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, if you had to ask any member of the profession whether they would choose to have 6 representatives from the government or 6 representatives from themselves, they would say, well, actually, no, we would prefer to represent all of them ourselves. Indeed, the profession itself needs to be self-regulatory. There have been instances in the past that have come to our attention where actually, for example, certain members of the board are not performing their function, or not performing their function in the eyes of the members of the profession appropriately. I want to see how the medical board would respond to having an engineer oversee them. I mean, at one stage there was, there was an engineer that was chairman of the board. I don't think that is the case in terms of the medical or dental council.
主席，我諗嚇，主席，我多謝先，因為咧，其實我相信要多啲時。
I think you may need more time to decide. So you go back and think about this, and you give us your comments. Now you talk about one vet, one vote, but you're going to return 6 members. So is it that one vet can choose 6 representatives, or one can only choose 1? And for those vets who have lost in an election, will it be acceptable to you if the government appoint him back to the board? Now, I'm in political science, so I think there can be different modes of elections. I'd like to hear more from you. I don't want the government to have all the say. Now, it's not just the vets who don't know politics. Many professions do not know politics because what you say is rather high level. I don't agree with you, Chairman. Well, I think many would like to know whether candidates defeated in an election should be appointed by the government into a board. Well, we have discussed this when it comes to the district council meetings. And even LP members of the view that the appointment system is almost abolished. Why should losing candidates be appointed back? Well, you want them to write back to you. I'm afraid by the time their comments are in, we have completed our scrutiny. I don't know whether Pan-Democrats plan to paralyze the government and therefore block the passage of the bill. Now, I don't want to challenge you. Well, you ask them to think about it. I'm afraid by the time they have formed their views, we're done with the bill already. I know you respect the profession. Mr. Chen Chi-chun. Thank you, deputations, for sharing us with your views. Most deputations present are from the vets. I think the crux of the matter is vet members and lay members. I think most deputations feel that the ratio of 2 to 1 is about right, with justifications given. Now, it's not that we certainly want more lay members, but from common sense point of view, we're afraid of collusion within a certain profession, and with vets investigating vets, we are worried. But you've just told us your justifications. You want to enhance efficiency. I can understand that with more lay members, you feel that efficiency may be jeopardized. Going back to the question of appointed and elected members, if you have fewer appointed members, then can be less concern of possible manipulation by the government. If there are so few vets in Hong Kong, have you done a poll, a survey of all vets in Hong Kong to gauge their views on whether all members should be elected, just to know whether they have strong views? Or it's just a suggestion by the government, 626, and it is for the profession to take it or leave it. Because if that's the case, it's very different. I'd like to ask a follow-up question of Dr. Olivia Chen. When responding to Ms. Sitho's question, Dr. Olivia Chen said that if all the members are from the same basket, so to speak, there may be demerits. Are you saying that, what do you mean by having vet members coming from the same place if they're all elected? And according to the administration, some members of the profession may not like competition, and if there are elections, people may not run, and they rather be appointed as a form of recognition. So can the profession tell us whether there are people who would rather be appointed and not elected? Question for the profession, please.
I think this is a question for the vet here. Any vet here who would like to take that question? Is it those who have vets who have high standard would not like to come out and stand for election, but rather be appointed? Thank you, Mr. Chen, for your question. I would like to respond on your 2 points. You said that there might be a collusion among the vet members within the VSB, but I can boldly say that for most practicing vets, they act on their conscience. They don't, actually operate for money, because this is a profession which doesn't bring in a lot of money. Now, compared to other medical professions, the vets are not earning huge amounts of money. So most of us are actually practicing for the sake of protecting animals and treating animals and so on. As in our submission, we also state that to maintain a higher professional standards within the profession also brings benefit to the profession. So we are not worried that there will be any collusion among members within the VSB. Now, under the existing structure within the VSB, if a vet member is looking at a case and there may be possible conflict of interest, then he must declare that interest, and he must say that, well, I know this vet, and then he will refrain from dealing with the complaint case. Now, for this reason, if there are not too many vet members on the board, then there may be delays because people know each other. Well, second point, I forgot what I'm going to say. Election, yes, election. Well, there aren't that many registered vets within the profession, around 700 of them, and around 400 to 600 of them are really practicing vets. And election is a good means to return members to the VSB. But then most of the vets are specialists in small animals, and some vets are working in the jockey club, dealing with horses, and some other vets are working in universities, conducting research. So for any election to be conducted, perhaps should be representation of the different categories of the vets. Dr. Olivia Chen. When I refer to the same basket, well, I'm not talking about the same place, but rather the same basket, as what Dr. Chen said. If we have just 400 to 600 practicing vets, and if we just have this pool, then that would be worrying. We must act carefully. Now, if we go by appointment, then it will help, because we would be able to identify people who would not like to stand for election. Well, it's not that we are giving up our right to the government to make appointments. We have to be very clear that this is a relatively new profession, and if all members are returned by election, then we may end up with a scenario that people or the members of the PIC and IC know each other so well, then they may not be able to deal with the case. So if we have different baskets, if you're picking people from different baskets, then we will not end up with the situation I mentioned. So we have to be very clear about this. Now, following passage of time, when the VSB is really come to a mature stage, then we can think about an all-elected board. Dr. N. Zhang, members of the public are concerned about this, and that is whether there are enough vets, the standards of service, their professional ethics, and their skills, and so on. It seems that there are not enough vets in Hong Kong, and then the demand may outstrip supply, and then the medical fees may also go up as a result. And in fact, many members of the public are saying to me that, well, the medical fee for my dog is higher than that for myself, a human being. Some deputations suggested returning the vet members by election. I have reservation on that. Well, naturally, the vets will protect or safeguard the interests of the vets, so they may very often take the side of the vets when they're dealing with complaints and other matters. I think this is just natural, and this is just reasonable, because an elected member must be answerable to his voter. So my question is, how can you allay the worries of the members of the public in that regard? And I would also like to pose this question to deputations. A member of the public may complain against the vet. Well, the complaints fall into two broad categories, I believe. And one is there may be mistakes committed in the treatment procedures. And I agree with what some deputations said, remarks made just now, that only the vets will know how the mistakes will be made, and lay members will not be able to understand anything about that part. And then there may be complaints about the surface procedure, so to speak. But then for the surface procedures, that may be comprehensible by the members of the public. Under the existing complaint mechanism, there is a problem, I see, because we've got two members from the trade or the profession and just one lay member. And the lay member may well be the physician or the pharmacist. So I'm worried that the board is just there to protect the vet's interest. Dr. Olivia Chan? Yes. Dr. Zhang, please listen to us carefully. Well, the vets can be objective. They can be very unselfish in a way. Well, it's a matter of whether you trust us or not. So we have the VSB to do the registration for VSB for vets. And within the VSB, we do need vets to make sure that the registration process is proper and right. Please understand this. Secondly, now if there are certain incidents which happened, the members of the public may lodge a complaint with the VSB. I think this is very clear. As to your remarks on whether lay members should sit on the board, well, we are already having lay members, and the ratio is 2-to-1. Well, that has all along been the ratio that has been adopted: 2 vet members and 1 non-vet member. This is not something new, I would say. I hope that you would understand. Dr. Brown.
I understand the worry about collusion, but I'd like to point out, and this is true, I'd say, for the veterinary profession worldwide, we have a standard, a professional standard. And if we believe a member, be a man or woman, is below that standard, we will throw them out. And that is the guarantee, and that is what's behind this. I understand that there's some idea that we won't, but actually, no, we are proud of our standards, and we don't like people who are below standard.
Dr. Jane Gray.
Hi, I would just like to point out as well that on the PIC there are 2 vets, well, recommended 2 vets and 1 lay person. That lay person should always be there. I'm not suggesting that vets self-govern. I think it's really important for lay people to be watchdogs for the public. That's why they're there. And therefore, I think, that's the way I see the lay people working together with us. I think that's really important. The other point about concern about all the eggs in one basket that was mentioned previously is also a suggestion, and I'm also in agreement with it, to have additional people from outside the board who are appointed as assessors that can come in. If there is these conflicts of interest with everybody knowing each other, then you can alleviate that very easily by getting in an assessor who obviously doesn't have a conflict of interest. So I think while we've discussed the new board system, we've also maybe admitted to talk about the role of assessors and also people helping the PIC prior to the complaint being thrown out or not. So I think there are these mechanisms that have been suggested to alleviate those fears. So I think appointed members versus elected, I think there isn't a problem if you did elect, say, 90% of those members, because you would have the backing of assessors and other people to call on if necessary.
Dr. Hesse.
First of all, I just want Dr. Gray and Dr. Chan have answered the rest of your questions. In terms of your fees, I've been practicing in Hong Kong for 16 years. It has been my experience that everybody wants to pay less fees. Whether you go to your doctor, whether you go to your dentist, whether you go to your vet, everybody always wants to pay less. Okay, so in terms of looking at what the costs of veterinary fees are in relation to the rest of the world, that's very easy. All you have to do is look at the recommended fees from the South African Veterinary Association, Australian Vets Association, and in the States. And you'll find that Hong Kong actually ranks as one of the cheapest places to have your animal treated in the world. So when you're talking about excessive fees, I don't believe that for 1 second, not at all. In terms of demand of vets outstripping supply, there's been a very big problem in the profession lately with actually an oversupply of vets. So in that point of view, you're completely incorrect. You're wrong. So when it comes to fees, in terms of vets in Hong Kong overcharging, I think you're incorrect on that point. And in terms of there being an excess demand for vets outstripping supply, I believe that you're also incorrect. My personal opinion, and from my experience that I've had in my practice, has been that actually the opposite is actually the truth. There's an oversupply of vets, and this is actually going to result in fees dropping across the board just by considering the laws of supply and demand. Furthermore, a big problem when it comes to fees is the charities ordinance in Hong Kong. And there's flagrant abuse of this system. There's flagrant abuse of the charities ordinance, not only by the medical profession, but now it's also becoming a problem in the veterinary profession as well. So until there is a regulated charities ordinance in Hong Kong, which there is not, there's going to continue to be this problem. Thank you.
Dr. Zhang, did you want to speak for a second round? Well, we haven't finished with the first round of questioning. It hasn't been my turn yet, so you can speak in the second round. First, Ms. Sit Ho.
Thank you, Chairman. My question is for Dr. Olivia Chen. Regarding the 6 appointed vet members, I have further questions to ask. I do understand if there are members of the board from government departments, it's just like the medical council. It's got the doctors from the Hong Kong Hospital Authority of the Department of Health, and they can represent government policies to facilitate communication with other members of the board. But I'd like to know whether there is a dedicated government department hiring vets. I understand in AFCD there are vets, but if vets from AFCD can communicate with the profession representing the government, do you need 6 so many? And I'd like to know whether previous appointed members were all from the AFCD or also from practicing vets. I think this question was answered by other vets when you were absent. Do you want them to reply again? I don't know whether the same question was put by another member, whether all 6 appointed members were all from the government. I think Dr. Olivia Chen, can you answer this question? So, for sure, Chairman. Let me put it clearly. These 6 appointed members from the board are not vets responsible for public health in the government. The administration may appoint vets engaged in public health or in responsible for small animals or for equestrian health. That's the ratio I said just now. But the 6-to-6 ratio is just a proposal to put forward this bill because the bill has been discussed for a long time and is suggested by Dr. Gray. When the profession is more mature, perhaps there can be more elected members than appointed members. Yes, they want the profession to pocket this first. I can understand the mentality. But why aren't for the 6 appointed members, why can't there be 1 or 2 from the AFCD so that it can really be the bridge between the administration and the profession? I think we should ask the administration to give us an overall response later. All right. Would any vets present want to respond to Ms. Sito's question? Yes. Dr. Jane Gray.
Dr. Michelle Young sits on the board currently, and she is the AFCD representation on the board, and I think there always is. So there's always 1 at least. Am I right, Olivia? Yeah. So there is always 1.
即係本身係有㗎啦。
So there is only 1. All right. My question, the first round, I've got 2. The LP Liberal Party mentioned animal welfare, and in the dental board and medical council, they and also pharmacists, they should be appointed to the board. I think dentists, doctors, and pharmacists should be useful. So why can't you have 1 each from this profession? I think you are comfortable with the ratio of 2 to 1 when it comes to vet and non-vet members. And according to the administration, in other jurisdictions, the number of appointed and elected membership is also in the ratio of 2 to 1. And Dr. Richard Brown talked about performance pledges and whether the board is fair in dealing with matters and whether complaints can be handled more expeditiously. Now, if the proposal is 12 to 6, is that sufficient? Because some members raised the question of performance pledges at the last meeting, but you are still saying no. quoting difficulties, saying that a certain vet on the board may know the complainee, so on and so forth. So it's not easy for cases to be handled, and there can be no overlapping of membership in IC and appeals. My question is for Dr. Chen, Dr. Olivia Chen. The threshold for overseas medical doctors to register and practice in Hong Kong is very high. The LP and even the Liberal Party have views about this. Now, for overseas trained vets to be registered and practice in Hong Kong, you asked whether we want to see anyone with a certificate should be allowed to practice in Hong Kong. Of course, this is not what we are asking for. But will the VSB make the threshold too high for overseas vets to practice in Hong Kong, although they are from well-recognized institutes from overseas? I don't know whether we have this in Hong Kong or not. Does Hong Kong U offer a vet course? The City U hasn't got such a faculty. So in Hong Kong, we don't have locally trained vets. If we have locally trained vets, I'm afraid that you will protect them and bar overseas vets from practicing in Hong Kong. Now, I'm not a pet owner, but according to Dr. Paul Easy, vets fees are among the lowest in the world, so we're grateful to you for practicing in Hong Kong. But this is my concern. Dr. Olivia Chen, can you answer this question? To avoid using a cocktail language, can I speak in English? I beg your pardon? Because I don't want to use cocktail language. May I speak in English?
Several questions and make several statements. So I will try to tackle the ones that I understand, and I will leave the other ones to my colleague if they have any feedback. The first question is whether we actually have set up the bar or the benchmark to restrict foreign vets to enter to Hong Kong. That is actually not the case. The unique situation in Hong Kong is that we do not produce our own vets. We actually have to have all vets graduate at a different location than Hong Kong to come back or to come to Hong Kong to work. With that, we actually have schedules. We have schedules that we have vetted out to say that these are the international standards, such as the AVMA, the RCVS, and we use those as the benchmark to register vets who are allowed to come into Hong Kong. And there is another sort of additional or supplementary clause that allow us to do individual assessment. How to go about, I think that's a very elaborate process, and I wouldn't intend to go into depth. It's going to be too long. So that is registration. So if that answers your first part of the question.
唔緊要，我係問嘅啫，即係我係有啲擔心啦。
I was just asking. I'm a little bit worried. Well, as I said, luckily we don't produce our own vets. Not like the medical profession, where doctors can be trained in 2 local universities, and they have made it rather difficult for overseas doctors to practice in Hong Kong. Dr. Richard Brown?
I realize it's quite a contentious issue, this issue of whether vets or students in Hong Kong should be trained to become vets here in Hong Kong. The one point I would like to make is I believe in education, and I believe in fairness, and I think that if we had a vet school here in Hong Kong, not producing a lot of vets, but producing a small number of qualified, a small number of very high quality vets, we might satisfy some of the aspirations of some young Hong Kong students whose parents do not have a lot of money, and therefore give them an education that they would not be able to get. So I think one of the issues to do with a vet school is to do with education and also research linked to that. Thank you.
I support the City U on that issue, even though I am not a pet lover, but this is not the the place and time to talk about that. I'm sorry.
I apologize, but you did mention it.
No, it's okay. 第二輪嘅咧，而家我就有
Second round, I have Dr. N. Zhang and Dr. Kenneth Chen, too. Any more colleagues? Dr. N. Zhang? 5 minutes, please. Thank you, Chairman. Yes. I don't know whether you have such data, such as the number of vets in Hong Kong and the ratio of vets to animals. For instance, our cattle population, well, we have stray cattle, quite a lot. I think we have 300 odd. Do we have any information on the ratio of vets and animals in Hong Kong? Perhaps it may be kept by the government, I mean statistics. Dr. Chen? I don't have such figures, but I believe the AFCD maintains such statistics.
1,500 to 1.
12 to 1,400 pets to 1 or animals to 1.
It's 12 to 1,400.
Okay, does that include big animals like horses?
No, that's
yeah, I know we have more
that's
vets in the jockey club than quite a bit more vets in the jockey club with horses, than 1,200 to 1.
No, it's small animals only.
Okay, small animals. 1,200 or 12,000?
1,200.
1,200, okay. 陳善琪獸醫。
張議員，主席，我冇一個。
Dr. Villager, I don't have the exact numbers, but the association has done a study compared with Japan and the U.S. A ratio of vets to pets is among the highest. So we have enough vets to against the number of pets, and that's the reason why fees are not that high. Dr. N. Zhang. Perhaps the administration can give us some statistics. I was prepared to ask the administration if they can tell us now, they should give us a supplementary information on the number of animals in Hong Kong. For instance, some members asked whether they will be appointing vet members from different baskets. For instance, one from the jockey club, one from AFCD, one from those looking after small animals. If they cannot give us this information, please furnish a paper afterwards. Yes, we want to have enough vets to provide the necessary service. My question for the professionals or for the VSB, can they give us a code of service? Dr. Oliver Chen, do you get that question? What? Code of service? A guideline for their service? Code of practice for vets. For instance, the Department of Health has got a code of conduct. Anyone from the administration who has got Dr. N. Zhang's question? I think Dr. N. Zhang is talking about a code of practice, regulating veterinary services in Hong Kong. We do have it. One of the important functions of the VSB is to set the professional standard. They have a code of practice. A breach of the code of practice can lead to a disciplinary hearing. And if that is convicted of a disciplinary offense, the maximum penalty, so to speak, will be revocation of his license. Well, you can get the code of practice from the website. Okay. Dr. Kenneth Chen, to follow up on my question in the first round, election methods. Some vets put up their hands trying to answer that question. I'm quite concerned because it is in the bill, and in the future you'll take part in elections as a candidate or a voter. I do respect self-regulation by the profession. I'm not too worried that elected representatives of the profession will be protecting their own colleagues, because if he does so, he will lose all his credibility in the next election. So I'd like to know whether you have any views on the method of election at this moment so that we can discuss with the administration. Otherwise, everything will be up to the administration and your views may not be reflected. Anyone, please? Dr. Gray?
Hi. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you give me a chance to reply. Yeah, I'm obviously originally from England. I've been here 23 years, so I consider myself a Hongkong-yan now, even though my Cantonese is very bad. But basically, I'm also a member of the Royal College of Veterinary Surgeons in the UK, because that's where I qualified, and every year they hold elections.
Yes. 咁所以都參與過佢哋嗰啲選舉嘅。
If there are 6 members up for election, then we have 6 votes, and we have to mark 6 places on the election ballot. Right. And as was alluded by one of my colleagues, each time we get sent out information on each vet, they have to prepare a manifesto to explain why they want to sit on the board, what they can bring, what they hope to achieve, just like in any governmental style position. And obviously then I always read it, and I basically make my decision. The good thing is you can do it both by paper ballot, and now hopefully Hong Kong is a very technological place. You can also should be able to do it by computer as well.
Electronic way?
Yeah, I have a password that's exclusive to me. I can go onto the computer, and then I can make my vote. I think there's no reason why the Hong Kong can, and maybe it shouldn't adopt the UK, but I'm just suggesting that's my personal experience, and I don't see why there's any reason they couldn't adopt that procedure.
Okay, thank you. Any other opinions regarding the methods of election?
Yes, Dr. Brown.
I mean, I would support Jane. I think that sounds reasonable. It sounds fair, and if it's done efficiently in the modern age, it should be okay.
Okay.
Any other vet who would like to speak? No?
Thank you.
There can also be a paper ballot, with the ballots being posted out to the practices, as long as the practicing number corresponds to the veterinarian. I mean, there can be multiple means of offering the ballot within a certain time period. So there can be, even as Dr. Jane is suggesting, there can be a technological method. There can also be one, just a normal written-in ballot, as long as the veterinarian is correctly represented, and there's a certain time frame. For example, they could do it in the first 2 weeks of September, from the 1st to the 14th of September. Written-in ballots as well as ballots using technology in as short a time frame as possible, so that it's fair and transparent. And something like that really should be very easy to administer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Perhaps when we talk with the administration, then we can talk further on this subject. Well, at the second or third reading, the administration might not be able to give us the details. Well, let's see what the administration will do with regard to implementing the election. So, the administration, do you have a consolidated reply for us? Mr. Wong? The profession and also members have raised several important issues. Let me respond to them briefly. Election method first. I would like to say that the amendment bill empowers the Secretary for Food and Health to announce the election rules. What we would do is that we would do it by way of a subsidiary legislation and seek consent from the LegCo. So in other words, the LegCo still has the chance to raise its opinions on the election rules. And in that process, the profession's views can also be solicited. So that would be the next step that will be done in a transparent and open manner. Second, well, in the last meeting and also this meeting, we talked a lot about the ratio 2-to-1 I don't want to repeat the administration stance here, because we said before that we have taken reference from the existing practice and the arrangement, and we think that ratio is appropriate. And also a member has also raised the point about ratio 2:1, and among the two, 6 will be appointed and 6 will be elected. Well, 2 years ago, we conducted a public consultation on the same subject, and we solicited views from the profession. And that ratio was mentioned back then. And I believe that the profession and also the stakeholders have taken reference on the state of the profession and then came up with this ratio 2:1, which they consider appropriate for the Hong Kong situation. And in the long term, as what some members said, would we be raising the ratio of elected members? That can be considered for the long term. But today, I would like to repeat here that we think the proposed ratio is about right, suitable for Hong Kong, taking into consideration the overall development of the profession. The operation of the VSB in the past has all along been fair and transparent, and so because the number of complaints has risen, so that's why we propose enhancing the efficiency of complaint handling process. So that's why we came up with the proposal of expanding the size of the VSB, and we will also add manpower to the administrative support team. Some people from the profession also raised this, and that is in the market that there are some animal clinics which sort of advertise or claim themselves as non-profit making. Well, that goes beyond the scope of what we are dealing today. Some clinic owners are positioning their clinics as charitable organizations, and really this goes beyond the scope of the amendment bill. Now, in any case, vets are subject to the code of practice of the profession, and I think that there is no problem with the existing system. And some investors are establishing their animal clinics as charitable organizations, but then they claim that this to be the case, but then in fact they're not doing so. Well, as I said, this goes beyond the scope of this amendment bill. Some other people talked about the number of vets versus the number of animals, how we compare to other countries. The ratio is around 1 to 1,200. That's a figure we have also. Now, if we compare ourselves to Japan and other jurisdictions, we have quite a number of vets here in Hong Kong, and the number is adequate. In the last meeting, we said this, and we are also, and this point was also raised again at this meeting, and that is whether we can have draw up some performance pledges in dealing with complaints. particularly in the area of timing. I would like to reiterate that there are different parts in the complaint handling mechanism. That is the waiting time and also the time taken to hold the hearings. We believe that when we have more members, the cases don't have to wait for too long to get dealt with. Now, as to how much time can be saved, I can't say for sure at this moment. Now, after the new mechanism has operated for some time, we might be able to give you a performance pledge. Now, as to the duration of the hearing or the complaint handling, because every cases differ from one to another, and going by the experience in the last decade, we found that complaint cases are getting more complicated nowadays, and specialized technology may be involved, and so on and so forth. So it would be very difficult to pin down exactly the timing required for the investigation, because that depends on the circumstances of the individual cases. And I don't think it's appropriate to draw up a performance pledge in that regard. Well, I think I have responded to most of the points. I don't know whether I have missed anything. So perhaps I'll pause here and see if members have any further questions. All right, members, do you have any further questions, or did you get all the answers you want? Ms. Sithold, I would like to raise this same question again. For the 6 appointed members, how come that they don't comprise representatives of vets from the AFCD? Well, why don't you elect all the 12 vet members? He hasn't answered my questions. Mr. Wong, can you answer that question? For the 6 appointed members, actually one is from AFCD. Within the vet profession, well, there are more vets taking care of small animals than big animals. But let's not forget that the profession encompasses a wide portfolio, and one of the work area is public health. So in appointing the vet members, we do appoint one from the AFCD who is taking care of the public health issues. So we will go by the same principles when we make future appointments. Well, I agree that these appointed members must come from different spheres in the profession. Well, why can't you open up these 6 appointed seats for election by the vets themselves? Well, Mr. Sithold, I understand your point that you are advocating the election for all the vet members, but then different members have different views, and some professions accept the fact that there are half who are appointed and half who are elected. Well, I understand your point, Ms. Sithold. I would like the administration to supplement, because the paper from the administration tried to evade this question. We did ask that question in the last meeting, but then in the paper, paragraphs 4, 5, and 6, they are trying to evade the question. Well, we do have time to ask them again. Dr. Zhang.
Thank you, Chairman. So according to the administration, the ratio of animals and vet is about 1,200 to 1. No, I think that ratio is for Hong Kong, and in other countries is even higher. But he said that we're comparable to Japan. Dr. Sit. Mr. Wong, I said 1 to 1,200 is one vet to 1,200 small animals in Hong Kong. In Japan, the ratio is 1 to 2,000, and the U.S. 1 to 3,300, around 3,300. That's the figures in 2012. Whether things have changed after 2 years, we have to conduct some research and get back to members. Dr. Jiang, any supplement? Not for the time being. Okay. So I think we have almost more or less completed our questions for the deputations, and we will continue our discussion with the administration on the policy aspects of the bill. So we thank the deputations for their presence and their views. You may be excused. Yes, Dr. Essay?
I'd like to ask one or two questions, please, before we adjourn.
I'm sorry.
Yes. So I'd just like to ask Mr. Wong one or two questions before we adjourn.
Can you put
possible?
it in writing? Because on this deputation, we can't keep allowing dialogues between the people coming in and talking to the
I understand that,
officials.
but we haven't been given any
Okay,
opportunity
I
to
just
speak
call.
to the,
I just call that part.
to
If
any
you
of the
need to ask
officials.
them a question, please write in. Okay.
Okay.
Because otherwise, if I allow you to ask questions and officials to answer the question, then the others people could also be doing the same thing, and then this would be out of control. Okay.
Okay, I understand.
Thank you for coming. 咁咧，政府
On the 28th of October, the administration has provided a response to issues raised on the 28th of October 2014. Please refer to paper number CB3 133 15 bracket 02. Ms. Wong, can you briefly walk us through the paper? Or rather, Ms. Lam. Thank you, Chairman. The paper has responded to concerns raised by members at the last meeting. And as Ms. Ho said, in the paper, we reiterated the roles and functions of the VSB, and I think we had a lengthy discussion with the deputations just now. I'd like to stress that the VSB doesn't just deal with cases. It's also responsible for monitoring of the professional standard of vets, and therefore it is necessary to have members with different professional background. Let me reiterate that the VSB was set up in 1997. Although all 10 incumbent members are appointed by the administration, the board has been operating independently, free of any influence by the administration. The ratio of vets to non-vets have always been 2 to 1, and we believe that it is an appropriate ratio for the sake of overall public interest, and therefore in the bill we're proposing a similar ratio. And at the public consultation, we received about 700 odd submissions, the majority of which supported this ratio. And from what we heard from deputations today, they were also in support of this ratio. Ms. Ho asked about the background of vets appointed by the administration. Well, in Hong Kong, As Mr. Wong mentioned, the management of farm animals and then vets overseeing veterinary public health are from public bodies. In the past, we appoint public officers onto the board. They do not represent the administration there. Rather, they are appointed because their professional expertise may not be available in practicing vets in the market. They may have more expertise with small animals such as dogs and cats. But for vets from the administration of public bodies, they have more expertise in veterinary public health and other aspects. And then in Jockey Club, we have whole races in Hong Kong, and the vets there have very specialized professional knowledge. And we've also got animals kept by the Ocean Park and zoos of the LCSD. These animals require very specialized vet knowledge. Regarding the background of such appointed members, because it was not required by members at the last meeting, this paper is focused on the background of non-vet members. In past appointment exercises, we did ensure that experts with different expertise would be appointed to the board. The board has to set out professional standards for vets practicing in different sectors, and therefore we need members with considerable knowledge or background in different areas of veterinary services. Members also asked for a comparison of the composition of the VSB proposed in the bill and other organizations overseas, and also the ratio of vet and non-vet members. Details can be found in the paper, and I will not repeat them. Regarding the background of non-vet members, please refer to Annex B. In considering the appointment of lay members, according to the ordinance, they should represent the interests of service users. So, usually we tend to appoint pet owners or members who are groups concerned about animal welfare. And there may also be representative from SPCA. This is to ensure that animal lover groups would be represented on the board. And we also once appointed the chairman of the World's Poultry Science Association and also a council member of the Hong Kong Racehorse Owners Association. And they represent the poultry trade and also the racehorse owners' interest, respectively. And I think Mr. Wong also mentioned the handling of complaints. Members We're concerned as to whether we can expedite the handling of complaints with a larger board and whether we have enough manpower in our secretariat. The secretariat is set up to serve the VSB. However, they are from the in the establishment of the AFCD. The AFCD will closely monitor whether the secretariat has got enough manpower. If not, we will use our usual resource allocation mechanism to enhance their support. In 2012, we added 1 senior executive officer and 1 EO2. So the VSB is supported by a secretariat of 10 members. We will keep an eye on the manpower demand. If necessary, we will secure resources internally to boost the support. And members are asked whether disciplinary hearings were open and whether the relevant parties could be legally represented. Please refer to Annex D for details. It is set out in the VSRO that the IC shall have the power to admit or exclude the public or any member of the public from the inquiry, depending on the circumstances. According to the rules of the VSB disciplinary proceedings, any party to an inquiry may be represented by a solicitor or counsel. This is very similar to the arrangements of the local professional regulatory bodies such as the Dental Council and the Medical Council. Any other supplements from the administration? Dr. N. Chang. Chairman, I'd like to ask the administration the following. Currently, all members are appointed, and you will increase the size to 19 members. Can you tell us why there will be 6 elected members by the profession? Can you tell us the reasons and rationale? Mr. Wong, because we believe the development of the profession has come to the stage when they should have elected members in the board so that members of the profession can be more actively involved in the management of the profession. Any follow-up? I do, Chairman. I think some of my questions have been answered by the deputations just now. For instance, will these lead to an increase in fees and whether we will have enough vets? And the answer is no, fees are very low now because under the current system, there is adequate supply of vets. According to the administration, is 1 to 1,200. So the ratio is rather high. This is good and welcome by the public. All of a sudden, you're going to enlarge the size of the board. You increase the democratic element. I think it is understood that elected members would defend the interests of vets. Do you understand that? Do you get that, Chairman? I usually support the government, but you must convince me the reason for this increase in elected members. In addition to enlarging the size of the board, you are going to allow elected members of the profession to the board. So won't it make the current mechanism worse? So you want the extra vet members to be appointed by the administration as well? I want a convincing member answer from the administration so that we who represent the voters here can understand. I think they've already answered you, though you may not like the answer. No, there's no answer. Do you get that, Chairman? They already explained to you what was the reason. Mr. Wong, can you, I heard his explanation. I just don't want to repeat it on his behalf. Mr. Wong, yes, let me reiterate. We've considered the development of the profession in the past decade or so. Well, they have over 700 members in Hong Kong. We've also considered the overall situation in Hong Kong, and the target is to ensure that we have good veterinary services. So we've considered a basket of factors. We believe it is appropriate to introduce elected members after the size of the board is enhanced so that the profession can be more involved in the management of its own business.
Chairman, does it mean that the VSB is not performing a good enough job, playing an active role in regulating the profession? Mr. Wong, we want to be forward-looking, and we hope that more people from the profession can participate in dealing with their own affairs. If we look around the world where there are such boards and which are successful, well, at some point in time, they would be introducing elected members to the board. So we have taken reference from that. Successful examples include UK and Australia and New Zealand. Well, when the vet profession has developed to a certain stage, then they will introduce elected members to the vet board. And I think taking reference of the size of the profession, we think it's an appropriate way to introduce elected members. Dr. N. Zhang. If the administration thinks that it should adopt a more open approach and have more vets to participate in the VSB and that a more stringent job can be done, then I am all for it. But then how and why are you allowing election among the members to return representatives? I think this is the major issue. Now, even without election, I think the VSB has been operating well. So why the election idea? Before you leave, I would like to ask your availability for the next day of meeting. Well, Dr. N. Zhang, please wait for a moment. A meeting is scheduled tentatively on the 2nd of December, and then the next meeting after that will be in January. So there is another time slot on the 19th of December, another time slot in the morning of 9th of December. So I would like to make use of those two dates. 19th of December, 10:45. Is that okay for you, Mr. Raymond Chen? Yes, Dr. Kenneth Chen. Yes, there will be a development panel meeting, but that will be up to 11. So I think it's okay. Dr. N. Zhang, are you okay? All right. December, the 19th, that we'll have another meeting on that day. Dr. N. Zhang, please continue. When amendment is to be made to an ordinance, we must look back at what has been done in the past, and we have to try to find out what problems were before we make improvements. I don't know what the problems were in the past. Now, the administration said that because there are more vets, then we need an expanded board. Then I've supported. But then the question is, for some of the vet members, they will be returned by election and not appointment. I have a query on that. Now, in Hong Kong, there are so many problems with our medical system, lack of doctors in public system, and so on. So it's undeniable that among the doctors, they are trying to protect themselves and safeguard their own rights. So I think we have to tread very carefully on that. Now, we shouldn't be just saying that some jurisdictions are opening up their board, and we should do the same. I don't think we should just copy from others. We should spell out clearly the benefits of opening up the board. I'm just so scared that the consultation fees will go up in the future if you go by your approach. Mr. Wong. Chairman, let me try to tackle this the question from another angle. On the ratio of vet and non-vet members on the VSB, earlier on, we said that the 2-to-1 ratio should be maintained. Now, the question is, among the vet members, how should they be returned? We all accept that 2-to-1 is a right ratio. Sorry, I'm not focusing on 2-to-1. I have no qualms about it. I don't mind at all. I don't mind adding in more from the profession because they understand the ins and outs of the profession. But then I have reservation. I do have reservation that 6 of them will be returned by election. The elected member has one single goal, is to uphold the rights of the vets. And this is precisely what I am worried. Now, you've repeated your reservation and your worries many times, but I don't mind that. Well, our original plan to proceed with the clause-by-clause scrutiny, but then we just have a few minutes left, so I won't do that today. Now, some members feel that all of them should be returned by election, but then your view is that they should all be appointed. Ms. Sit Ho has reservation on the 6 appointed members, and you have reservation on the 6 elected members. That's okay. We can resolve the issue when we come to vote on the bill. All right. Now, if members don't have any further questions, I think I should wrap up here. And then I will save the clause-by-clause scrutiny for the next 2 meetings on the 2nd of December and 19th of December. And 2nd of December is a Tuesday, and we'll have a meeting at 8:30. That was agreed on last time at room 2A, 8:30, 2nd of December. We'll have another meeting on the 19th of December, 10:45 a.m. If we are lucky enough, then we'll be able to finish our work within this year. And Mr. Wong, you said that there will be a resolution relating to the election rules. Now, if the amendment bill is enacted, when will you take forward the issue on the HA members? We have to do it by phases. You have to get the subsidiary legislation passed first, right? And then when will you actually change the membership of the VSB? If the electrical agrees to election, then we have to conduct an election before new members can be returned. According to our present thinking, Well, the primary legislation empowers the Secretary for Food and Health to come up with a piece of subsidiary legislation. So after this bill is enacted, then we will proceed with drafting the subsidiary legislation. That has to go through the legislative process again. So in other words, after the amendment bill has been enacted, it may yet be some time before we can actually change the composition, because we still have to deal with another piece of legislation, subsidiary legislation on election rules. Well, I am trying to speak on your behalf as well. Chairman, we have this plan. We hope to submit the subsidiary legislation to the relevant panel in the first quarter of next year. Now, of course, provided the LegCo approves of our proposal, then we will go by a negative vetting for that piece of subsidiary legislation. Yes, you didn't get my question. We know how you work. My question is, do you have a plan for the election already? Are you already drafting the relevant resolution? Now, assuming that we finished our scrutiny by the 19th of December, and then first, second reading have passed, and then after that, when will you be consulting us and the vets on the election rules? And after that, you will be coming up with a piece of subsidiary legislation. What is the timetable for all of these? When can actually the change in the VSB composition be effected? We do have a timetable. In the first quarter of 2015, we hope to consult the relevant panel, and if everything goes smoothly, by middle of next year, then we will hope to present the resolution or the subsidiary legislation for negative vetting by the LegCo. Now, after the vetting has been done, then we can effect the changes. Or rather, we can hold the elections. Yes, that's right. So the new composition of the VSB will not be realized before 2016, right? Well, if you have to carry out election, then yes, that's it, more or less a timetable we're talking about. That's reasonable. Dr. Sit, I would like to supplement in responding to Dr. Zhang's question on the question of medical fees. In the Code of Practice for vets, it is stated that vets are required to comply with fee charging rules, and they should not be charging excessively. If they do so, they are subject to disciplinary action. Ms. Sitho, I would like the administration to supply information on the background of the 6 appointed members in the past. Second, they talked about negative vetting once again. Now our aim is to finish the scrutiny on the 19th of December. Now, if they do have a draft piece of subsidiary legislation, why can't they present it now? And why do they want to do it by way of negative vetting? Why don't you go by positive vetting instead of negative vetting? The administration, please give us the answers next time. Please give us a paper, a written paper. Well, perhaps you can confirm whether you have a draft of the subsidiary legislation. Now, if you can present it right now, then we can deal with it immediately. And now. And why do you want to go down the route of negative vetting? I think you have made your point. And actually, a lot of members said that they don't like negative vetting. Well, not just for this piece of legislation, a lot of members have objection, including the Liberal Party, towards negative vetting. We just have 1 minute. Dr. Kenneth Chan. Well, I hope that the administration should take heed of our views. If you have a draft or something, please present it to us. Because in any case, we would be asking you on the subject anyway. Now, in your paper, there is a Annex C. You gave us the duration of dealing with complaint cases. And you said that 16 months on average. But can you give us a range and also the specific figures as well? And second point, we are worried about the work pressure of the Secretariat staff. Thank you for telling us that there are 10 staff members in the Secretariat. There's just one legal advisor only. I'm worried about his or her workload. And he or she is appointed by the Secretary. So I'm concerned that after the amendment is passed, will it be possible to increase the manpower in relation to legal advice to deal with the increased workload for PIC? Dr. Andrew, I'm sorry, we've overrun. Yes? I made the point that if there are 6 elected vet members, then there would be problems. I've made that point. But I hope that the administration can tell us the benefits of having 6 elected vet members.
So that I can tell the public that there are merits to this design, because right now I cannot think of any advantage. Mr. Wang, can you reply in your paper why you have decided to have 6 elected and 6 appointed members respectively? All right, I'll do it in the paper. And please give us the paper as soon as possible. I think you have gathered that it won't be too difficult for the bill to be passed. And if you give us all the papers, we will do it quickly. Thank you.